FMSQ said that it confirmed that it will file this lawsuit tomorrow, and it wants to stop immediately some elements of the law. How do you react to this?
Well, I react the following way. These are big changes that we're asking them. I understand their reaction, and that's their right to do what they take this legal procedure. But I think you will understand that I will not comment on it more than that. And secondly, my job is to protect the patient. That's what I'll do.
Okay. Not much has changed, by the way, Christian Dubé, since this whole thing started. I think the only thing that has changed was the original 25% premium was taken down to 15% and then nothing else. James Mennie is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I know when we spoke yesterday, we talked about this bill just having so many different sort of elements to it, many of which were not even originally in Bill 106. So I don't know. I thought it was odd today, odd in kind of a way that even doctors now feel the need to go to Quebec City and protest in front of the National Assembly to this. And I keep scratching my head thinking, really, is this the way you want to treat doctors and medical specialists in this province because you think the public is on your side?
Well, you kind of allow me to segue back to what we just heard from Christian Dubé. Much in the same way as Francois Legault and company always need a villain. In this case, the doctors of Quebec. They also need to have, some damsel in distress that they're rescuing, i.e. the people of Quebec, and here we go again. And I with all due respect to the report of Matt Scrum, and I've been there, and I know you're crazy, you're doing 15 things at once, and these days with smaller newsrooms, it's even more difficult. But when a politician turns around and says, my job is to protect the patients, that's when you hit the brakes and say, how? Please explain to the people of Quebec right here and right now, apart from all the disruption that you're causing and the legal, how does this make life better for patients in Quebec? Yeah, you've got a color-coded system where, and my God, help me, Aaron, I know because of your sordid past in the department store business, which is the same as mine. The whole idea, and a lot of our listeners out there have been in situations where it's like, look busy, seem busy.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go with the number of patients. That'll be your measure of success. It won't be how many people you help or cure or give therapy to or keep alive. It's going to be much in the same way as, and I say this with all due respect to the people in the education system, how many, much in the same way, how many graduates can you cookie cutter out of the education system? It's going to be how many patients can you rubber stamp and say, yeah, this one's okay. Look at this. Look at our numbers. They're through the roof. It's absolute rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. And now, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sorry to keep flogging this particular horse, all the other times, Aaron, that I've spoken to you, whether it was about Bill 21 or 96, or the way this government routinely overrides rights. And now we're looking at a government that is overriding what seems to be some very fundamental rights on the part of doctors, even to protest the working conditions that they're being subjected to, okay? And this is another day at the office. And the fact that this has come home to roost, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but guess what? It's not just about Muslim women anymore. It's anybody who gets up into Francois Legault's face. Anybody who disagrees with the party line of the great leader, even though he's a lame duck, even though his political career is finished, even though he is just going to be a skid mark on Quebec's political history, right here and right now, he's driving a truck right through the health system. And the idea behind driving, as he drives, as he's got the death grip on the steering wheel there, Aaron, he's saying, this is for the people of Quebec. So here we go again. Stop me if you've been in this nightmare before, but once again, we're stuck, and there's no way to dislodge these people for another year.
In your note, Jim, and I didn't see this, so maybe you can explain. You say it's now got the blessing of the PQ. Have they weighed in on this?
Yes, they have weighed. They said, we're not crazy about the way they did it, invoking closure, but I can tell you right now, we're going to keep the main elements of this bill in effect, which I'm kind of wondering, quite frankly, was whether this is another, he's been not having a great week, Mr. Paul St. Pierre Plamondon, whether this is another big, fat, low-hanging fruit that the Liberals can swat at, because, I mean, they have been saying, Liberals saying, we form the government, this is going to be history, we're going to sit down, we'll rewrite the law with your cooperation. But it seems, I don't know what they like about it, maybe because it's easy, maybe because someone else, as some pundits have pointed out, the CAC has done the dirty work for the next government. But the fact of the matter is, there are certain things that you mess around with at your, political risk, and the health system is one of them. The idea that this somehow doctors are the problem. What crazy world did we suddenly wake up in where politicians can say this with a straight face and still have their job the next day? This is what's really crazy. But here we are. The facts are saying, by all means, reform the government. We're going to keep this law. So guess what? If you were worried about still having a doctor, if you were worried about still getting treatment, you've got a pretty good, unless the polls change between now and October, you're going to see more of the same after October of 2026.
Well, I'm hoping Francois Legault doesn't need a doctor's appointment anytime soon.
He can go private, Aaron. He can go private.
Well, this
is what infuriates me. And don't get me wrong, okay? I don't want to bushwhack you here, Aaron, but I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in July, okay? I saw a radiology oncologist in September. I'm supposed to see a surgeon in November. Up until 2 weeks ago, I wasn't scared. I wasn't concerned. I wasn't distracted. I knew exactly what I was up against. And this garbage now, and I know I was listening to you interview your cardiologist yesterday. I know these doctors will do their duty as physicians. But the fact of the matter is you can't keep kicking people in the teeth and expect them to do the same kind of a job. So I'm hoping everything's fine. But like I say, I'm doing okay. If I have to, I'll go private as well. But God help the people who are listening to us right now, who are in the same boat as me, and those 4,500 people who are on a waiting list for surgery, with this garbage from this relentlessly incompetent government, which seems to have no other goal in mind than to, as far as I can tell, scrap the whole goddamn province.
So, Jim, I'm sorry to have, sort of brought that out, and obviously,
no, I got to tell you, you can't sit back and look at this happen and not say, but this is the thing. You do your research. Everyone does their research, and you know what you're up against. And believe me, I wasn't concerned, but now when I see this, I'm going, what can I expect?
Sure. And
I like to think everything's going to unfold the way it should. But right now, thanks to these clowns, I have no idea. And honest to God, Aaron, if I'm mentioning it, it's simply because neither does anyone else.
Obviously, we're all hoping for the best for you, but yeah, you're right. There are people who find themselves in this situation. When I said, I hope the premier doesn't need to go see a doctor, you're right. He can go private, so that's not an issue for him. But I don't know. I think you get a look from your doctor as well, regardless if you're in the private or public system, over what this government is trying to do and stick its hands where they do not simply belong. So we shall see.
But this is, I don't understand. This is the part I don't understand. Maybe Legault, because Legault has always been described as somewhat, how can I say this on the radio politely and legally, mercurial in his temperament.
Yeah. A
guy like Christian Dubé, this is a very sober. I mean sober. I mean staid. I mean, he's a businessman. He's an administrator, and to turn around and turn this into this holy war. That we're going to be the government that finally brings the doctors to heel. We're going to be the government that's finally going to convince these people to toe the line and do what they want. And God forbid, if they open their mouth about it, we're going to sue them. What planet is this, Aaron? Because I need a map.
By the way, I would just point out to your, to the issue re Christian Dubé, he's already said he's not going to run in the next provincial election.
Exactly.
Right? So why toe the company line here and basically parrot the premier when you realize that, you're up against it and this is not the right way to get through this?
Because this is a Kool-Aid drinking kind of policy. That, right? Yeah. This is not something where you're going to sit down and say, boss, come on, let's get real. Let's sit down. Let's at least and understand that before we did any of this, Aaron, the health system is in huge trouble administratively. You've had Aaron Verfel on from the Gazette so many times. Our listeners know that it's being held together with spit, bubblegum, duct tape, and hope, okay? And then to turn around and say, that main element there, the people that make it go, let's really piss them off. Let's really make it impossible for them to stay. Let's make sure the ones who were thinking about retiring are going to retire. And believe me, Aaron, I think a lot of our listeners can tell you there are a lot of doctors who are serving the Quebec public right now who should have retired years ago, but they know they can't because they know their expertise and the scope of the help that they give can't be replaced because despite what this government thinks, but they're not baking cookies here. They're saving human lives. It's a bit of a different endeavor.
Jim, I just want to take 1 second, get to something that I know is not on our list, but Andrew Lutfi yesterday in front of a group, I forgot which it was, the Canadian Business Council, so one of those, came out yet again and called out the Premier, called out, the government, again, for really not having a really interesting or good sense of business. And he said, and I think he specifically referred to Francois Legault, saying that for a guy, who was a businessman, and let's remember, he started Air Transat right back in the day, did very well for himself, and said now he has no clue about how business actually works in this province. What did you make of that? Because it seems to me that's the kind of thing we've not heard from people, be they big or small businesses, in a long, long time, if at all.
Well, I think part of the issue as well, though, is that whether it's Mr. Lutfi or other people in the business community, you realize that you reach a point almost of no return, Aaron. When you look at it, you've got to say, people can say, "Oh, Mennie, he's on CJAD. He's always calling them incompetent." They are incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. And the fact that Francois Legault, who describes himself as an accountant rather than a businessman, and yes, he helped. He is one of several people who started Air Transat. And you know what? It was a great company, and he left that company, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean he has been, kissed by the gods with some particular, acumen. And if you look at the business decisions this government has made in the last 7 years, how much it has cost? Well,
yeah.
The hundreds of millions, I hesitate to say billions just yet because I don't have the figures in front of me, but the hundreds of millions that this province could use that have gone up into thin air because someone didn't know what they were doing, because someone didn't do their homework, it's absolutely nuts. So the fact, I'm not so surprised by the comments that are being made about Francois Legault. I'm surprised that they're not being made more often, although, frankly, that may change.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
The newest tracks. Let's go. New music. And the next big thing.
Always on the new music first.
Your first place to hear it all.
'Cause you gon' like it, love it, wanna play it twice. Playing now.
iHeart New Music. Your digital station for brand new drops, fresh finds, and tomorrow's bangers.
I think we need something new.
Discover iHeart New Music. Always fresh, always first. Stream now on the free iHeartRadio app.